Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the FIDE World Rapid Championship. The title is banned because this is following on from Magnus Carlsen. This is the day where he was banned. So we won't be featuring any of his games. He's now out of the running, but there are still games being played. There is still a championship to be decided and two champions to decide. So we start in the women's section with Jo Wen-jun versus Tan Zhong-yi. Apologies if I mispronounced any of the names. And Jo Wen-jun, Tan Zhong-yi, Hampi Konaru, and are all in contention. Apologies for the pause. I had a brain fade there. So this was their round 9 game, I believe. I might be mistaken. I can check, but I'm not going to. So Tan Zhong-yi's got the white pieces. She plays d4, knight f6. And what we get is this. It's a Queen's Gambit declined, and it's a Rogozin defense. This is the Rogozin. Almost like a Nimsa Indian, but the knight's here. The Queen comes out to give a check. That doesn't win the bishop because the knight comes out to defend the bishop. So it's not a fork. And then we play e3. So the light squared bishop's open. Castles. The Queen comes back because it's of no use then on a4, we get take, Queen takes, the knight jumps into the center, and then the Queen slides out to b3. All really well-known stuff. You can see the players have hardly spent any time. We get a5 from Jo Wen-jun. The bishop comes out to attack the knight, and Jo Wen-jun planting both her knights nicely in the center, attacking the bishop. The bishop retreats, and we get this move c5, planting that knight well and truly in the center and striking back while the king is still there. So we get castles and takes. It's not the preferred move. The ancient thinks that you can wait a bit and rather play this move b6. It thinks you can wait. You don't need to clarify the center right away, but Jo Wen-jun takes. So the center's now been clarified. For those of you who don't know, Jo Wen-jun is currently the women's classical world champion. So she's looking to add more titles to her name. And if I'm not mistaken, Tan Zhong-yi is her next challenger. So, very fascinating matchup. The knight retreats, kicking out the queen. The queen slides forward. And now her knights are, Jo Wen-jun's knights are really well coordinated in the center. The bishop comes out, and the best move, f6. It looks very weakening, but, and this is a nice move. You can ignore the threat on the bishop, because the queen would get there. So, we just defend now with g6. It looks very silly to be pushing pawns in front of your king, but it's completely fine. The bishop retreats, and black is just fine and even slightly better because white's pieces are so passive. So the bishop is developed. We bring a rook to the center and then a rook to attack the queen. The queen slides back. And I think the big problem that Tan Zhong-yi has found so far is she's not worse. It's still very much level because, this at the end of the day is not going to be good. But she's wasted a lot of time getting her queen kicked around. This bishop is passive. The rooks aren't connected. Look at Jo Wen-jun. If she just brings her queen out to any one of these squares, her rooks will be connected. This bishop always has opportunities to come out here. And her knights stand really strong in the center of the board. So the queen comes out. Again, another retreating move to protect b2. And then the move a4. We don't want to allow a3. But now the knight jumps into the center. And even though you can move the queen, it jumps out, and it gets, very shortly after we move our rook out the way, it gets to b3, which is a nice square for it. White is now slightly better. Jo Wen-jun probably wasn't the right plan, but it's still completely fine. Rook a d1, bring the rooks to the center, because that plan took a bit too much time, and now white's pieces are a bit better coordinated. Queen d6, just centralizing. And white's better here if they play h3. That's the move to keep the best part of the advantage. But instead we get g3. And this is where things start to go slightly awry. Because you've probably weakened your king a little bit. And this pawn move is not the same as this one. It's not the same. Because there are weaknesses. And very quickly we go up a pawn. Black goes up a pawn. And even though you get, yes, queen e4. I'm in time with e5, and yes, you can pin the knight, but I can retreat and give you the exchange. It's a mistake to take a rook. That's how bad the position is, because I just swarm. The weaknesses to your king are too much. I'm now threatening all sorts of mates. You must push that pawn, but check. Also here, you don't take this knight. You don't take. You get butchered. It's no good. It's no good. You get butchered, so you can't take. You bring the king up. Knight retreat's not the most accurate move, but they've got seconds on the clock, but it's all winning. Take, take. And yes, you can go here. But I just slide over. The best move. Check. And we just swarm. We just swarm, get everything in, march you down with the d pawn, and when you defend, check. The knight gets in here, check. And the final move, check. It's mate in 3. But more importantly, you're taking the rook, you will take the queen, you will promote the pawn. And Jun beats Tanjoni. Okay, now moving back over to the open section. We need to talk about some of the leaders. And that there are lots of players still in contention. In the women's section, there are 3 players who are tied for first. In the men's, it is all very close at the top. And 2 names in the mix are Jan Krzysztof Duda and Arjun Erigaisi. And they played a very nice game. We had d4 knight f6, just like in the previous game. And we got a proper Nimso Indian this time, not the Rogozin, with knight to c3. And we got this very interesting move f3, because you look to build either with e3, and your bishop gets there, or you play like knight e2, knight here. So take, take. That's the whole idea of the Nimso. And the whole idea is you can take this pawn, but then I build in the center. That's the key idea. So take, take, we clarify, and we take again. So very interesting from Arjun. He's spent a lot of the year playing lower rated opponents. No disrespect to his opponents, but he's gained lots and lots of elo. So he must be very well prepared. Because I wouldn't play like this. What are my pawns doing? My king's nowhere near castled. But we play e4, kick out the knight, bring out the dark squared bishop. And you can take this pawn, but it's not worth it. You lose too much time because the queen side is not developed for black. So the queen comes out, queen retreats, and white just starts swarming with all the pieces. And now the queen gets kicked around just like Tanjoni. And now Duda's better. He's better if and only if he plays a6. And he plays a6. And now he is much better. He's got a better position. Look at this. He doesn't even have to castle. He can just move his king to f2, which is another nice idea. So we get this. And this is too much. This is the mistake. That gives away his advantage. It's not easy in a rapid game, although he is up 4 minutes. He's got a couple of ways to get advantage here. One of them is knight d7. Just opening everything up here. Another one is rook a b8. Rook a b8, probably looking for this move then. And then bishop a2, just attacking the rook. Those are the options. Instead, he plays b4 right away, but allows take, take, and this simplification. And now we're probably heading towards a draw because the major pieces have been traded. These 2 pawns will fall, probably. And it's too symmetrical. The rook infiltrates, the king comes closer. You've got to be careful because this endgame is not drawn very easily. But players of this stature, you would imagine that unless someone makes a serious mistake under time pressure, this will be held. And look at that. Arjun has to find only moves here because if you don't, this is the only move to hold now for black, or close to holding for white rather, against black. Because black is going to put pressure on the whole time, the way this has been played. And here we had the option to repeat, to play rook a7 again, to repeat moves. Duda wants to continue playing, but there's nothing here. There was nothing here, he could only repeat. Oh, maybe. Takes, and now the king is pinned on the back rank. Nothing here. Take, king e1. We trade off, and this is just going to be a draw. We know we talk about the bishop versus knight endgame sometimes. This is a draw. Black has got 3 split pawns. White has got 3 split pawns. They will all fall. So we get rook h3. You can take that. I cut the king off, and we trade. And this is just a well-played game by 2 very good players. And they are sitting very close at the top. But there is another game that we need to talk about. And there is another man we need to talk about, Vladimir Murzin, who I believe was the 52nd or 56th seed coming into this event against Hikaru Nakamura, everyone's favorite chess YouTuber, who's also not happy with FIDE after doing an interview yesterday. Hikaru's got the white pieces. He plays e4, and we get an Italian opening, and bishop to c5, a gioco piano, and this move d3. There are other moves here. You can castle, and you can play c3, but Hikaru looks for the d3 setup, and looks to play like this. So this is not your normal way to play the Italian, or the traditional way, but this is a trendy way to play it, where you just look, as you can see, Hikaru jumps down the center, you look to get control of this d5 square. We offer an exchange of bishops. Murzin says you can take, and we saw this in the World Championship, this kind of structure, where yes, you can get double pawns, but it becomes very solid, and you just control this square on d4. Knight retreats, the queen comes out, castles, very symmetrical so far. a4, taking space on the queen side, the bishop comes out, and we play a5. You can take this, and we will get that exact same structure that we got in the World Championship, Dingliren versus Gukesh, and we get that, but knight takes, very key here. Hikaru doesn't want to damage his structure, because it will lead to basically trading everything on the d-file. So we get takes, it hits the queen has to move, and now we're moving our knights. Okay, c3, now this square is not weak, but that does weaken the d3 pawn. So when the knight moves, pawns don't go backwards. Now you've got to defend that weakness that you created. Excuse me, sorry about that. Knight retreats, g3, nice move. This knight wanted to go there, it can't anymore. Queen retreats, looking to target d3, and you have to give it up. But you don't take. Very key here. You don't take this. You don't take this. Because we take... Oh, sorry, my nose. Queen takes d3, rook takes d3. Knight takes c5 is a problem. Because we win that pawn. That's hit. You can't defend everything. So it looks like you can win a free pawn. You can't quite. So the queen comes out. And here Hikaru makes a slight inaccuracy. Going to c3. The preferred move was rook a3. Oh, not rook a4. Rook a3. This is the preferred move to defend the knight. It wants the queen on e2 for some reason. So we get queen to c2. Knight takes e4. Beautiful move. Obviously the idea is take. Hikaru finds the best move. Rook a e1. The knight retreats, and now we can take that. Just like this. So material is restored. But is it really? Is it really? These pawns might become a problem. This rook is misplaced. The rook retreats, get kicked around by the knight, and the knight's dancing. At the end of the day, it's going to be who can coordinate their pieces better. Take. Knight retreats. And whose knight is going to have the best outpost to go to? We take on the d-file, we exchange rooks. If you want to win a rook endgame, always easiest to trade off a pair of rooks. It's still very much level. Either side can win this. And they threaten us with a repetition. Hikaru says no, let's trade queens. And now white's slightly better. That rook going there was not the preferred move. King slides over, knight retreats, and it's going there. The thing is, these two pawns are together, these two are split. So black has the weaknesses long term, and black is also down about 2 minutes on time. And that's a mistake. And black makes a mistake. Murzin, maybe punching above his weight, makes a mistake. Hikaru not accurate though. The best move is king f3. Start bringing the king to the center. This is still defended. It does mean you can't move your rook off the second rank, but this rook is so passive. Bring your king to the center, start controlling things. Instead, we get rook to d2. The knight comes in, and they make some improvements, taking space with their pawns. The knight gets a lovely outpost, and now the king comes. Take, and look at this. Perfect move. You're going to win one of these pawns back, so we split them. Takes with check. And now it is probably heading for a draw. As we bring the kings towards the center. What? Rook b4 loses some serious advantage. A bit of a miss. The preferred move of the engine here is to take this pawn, but Hikaru sees something and doesn't like it, wants to take this pawn, but allows the knight in. The rook goes up, which is fine, king d6, and Hikaru makes a huge blunder. With 23 seconds left on his clock, because they get 10-second increment, he plays knight d2 and loses the game. There's actually only one move here for white to hold, and it's knight d4. This is the only move to hold. Hikaru got his king trapped on the back rank, and his pieces became really passive. He plays knight d2. The king comes over. Not the best move. The best move is knight f2 check, giving the check and forcing the king to move and getting your knight in. But we attack the rook, and Hikaru makes a second mistake. It's not the first mistake that kills you, it's the second. King c7. The rook's not trapped, but it's going to go away, and then this king is just too weak, and this pawn will come through and promote. Vladimir Murzin beats Hikaru Nakamura, and he is near the top, if not the top at the moment. Incredible story. If I click here, I don't know if you'll see this on the side, you won't. So he won his first 4 rounds. He beat Vujek Damichov in the first round. He beat Fabiano Caruana, Alexander Bortnik, Alexander Lenderman. He drew Levan Aronian, drew Lenier Dominguez Perez, who's also near the top, drew Arjun Erigaisi, drew Anish Giri, and defeats Hikaru Nakamura in the first 9 rounds. An incredible tournament from Vladimir. Absolutely incredible. And he's near the top, and he might win the World Rapid Championship. Get out of here. What else can you say?